Hi there, and welcome back to Fuzzy on the Details. My name is Fuzzy, and today we're going to be covering Session Zeros, what they are, what's unique about running them for the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game, and how players and narrators both contribute to them, making for a more stable, engaging, and fun experience for all. Let's get into the details. Session Zero is a gaming term that's used in all types of TTRPGs. It goes back about 20 years and is a meeting where the players and the person running the game discuss what they want to get out of the game before they actually sit down for their first session of rolling dice. The goal of a Session Zero is to ensure that everyone is on the same page before play begins, to eliminate problems or conflicts that could disrupt play and either kill the momentum of a session or the entire campaign. The Core Rulebook lists some of these potential issues, and we'll review them shortly. Session Zeros have evolved over the years, and discussions about potentially triggering topics or safety tools have become common as of late. I'm all for it. When I started gaming, I really only gamed with people in my neighborhood that I knew my whole life. I didn't need to ask them if there were any topics that were off limits or any lines that I shouldn't step over. But with online gaming becoming more and more prevalent, it's not uncommon to roleplay with people you've never met before. So I see no reason why I shouldn't be a little bit more formal or intentional about discussing boundaries before I accidentally step over one. Let's look at what the Core Rulebook says about Session Zeros. It suggests 4 main topics that the players can discuss: the kind of game, type of characters, concerns, and character creation. Let's talk through these and flesh them out a bit, and then I want to highlight a few omissions that I think are really important to add to this list. Coming to a consensus on the theme of the game is probably the most important thing you can do in a Session Zero. Sometimes a narrator may make this decision in a vacuum, but I think your best chance of everyone at the table feeling invested in a game is to solicit everyone's input. If you're pitching an idea, whether you're the narrator or a player, don't be afraid to be more specific than what's written here. Rather than saying pure action, you could say it's 1940s Germany and a secret multinational unit of powered individuals are fighting to neutralize Hydra's secret weapons deep behind enemy lines. You could also just describe the general vibe of a campaign by suggesting a Marvel property that you really enjoy and would like to explore in an RPG. Hey, I can't get enough of the X-Men 97 cartoon. What do you guys think of setting the game in that universe? Or, I'm excited about this newly announced NYX comic. Sounds like it could make for a fun campaign. Players, be vocal about the types of games that you want to play. The more enthusiasm that you bring to the table about your idea, the more others will hop on board. And if there are multiple ideas that people want to play, there's no reason you couldn't run one story arc in one game and then try out a different idea with different characters in the next. People can collect more than one comic book at a time, right? And regarding optional rules, narrators can certainly volunteer some, but players have a voice too. Anyone in this session should feel comfortable about asking whether the new rules in Tony's workshop will be used in the game before they decide to play a character that's, for example, impacted by the changes to webcasting. Players, if a narrator really wants to play things by the book, consider that they could just be nervous about running a game and don't want to complicate things. Maybe they'll be more comfortable in the future. There's no reason you couldn't agree to running things by the book for a story arc or two, and then scheduling a follow-up session to revisit the topic. And finally, define what play by the book means for character builds. Are fan-made builds for characters not yet in the game acceptable? Personally, in a game where someone can create a character completely from scratch, I see no reason why one couldn't play a character that somebody else created completely from scratch. It's all done with the same rules and therefore inherently balanced. There's no material difference between a fan build of an existing Marvel character and a player build of a unique character. As an aside, if you're interested in fan builds, I've recently updated my website to include links to the collection that Billy Mickle has been maintaining. Just go to fuzzyonthedetails.com, click on profiles, and you'll get access to hundreds of fan builds from a variety of very reliable creators. When you're discussing what rank your character should be, remember to talk in terms of starting rank and maximum rank. And obviously, those could be the same number. You don't have to rank up your characters in this game. If you do plan on increasing rank, you'll want to discuss how, per the suggestions in the Core Rulebook, or do you want to use the new Getting Schooled rules in Tony's workshop? Keep in mind that rank may also be a consideration for less experienced players or narrators. If this is your first time narrating or playing, a relatively lower ranked game might be the way to go, as there are fewer powers and abilities to adjudicate. Sharing goals is important, and an easy way to accomplish this is by having all of the characters be on the same team. This could be playing the Defenders, the cast of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, or a brand new and player-built class of New Mutants. There's an old D&D trope of everyone's character being strangers that just met in a tavern, and all of a sudden they're trusting each other with their lives. Having your characters be on the same team avoids this entirely. Conflicts or betrayal. You might want to play a Skrull and secretly lure the other characters into a trap so that they could be replaced by other Skrulls, but that's not necessarily the story that all the other players signed up for. Be sure to ask if intra-party conflict is okay. Not everyone wants an Among Us vibe in their RPG. Regarding violence level, hey, even the comic books cover this. I have all of the Punisher Max comics, for example, and I know that that level of gore is not for everyone. A no-killing rule in this game can be used, especially when playing with younger children. I have this in place when I play with my 8-year-old, but when I play with my friends, we prefer to have death on the table, as we feel this adds stakes and tension to the game. But if you're playing with first-time RPGers, there's no reason you can't keep the training wheels on for the first story arc or two, so they don't have to worry about making mistakes that they won't have a chance to learn from. Regarding off-limit topics, I think the most important thing I can add here is to just be real and authentic, and you're going to be fine. You can say, hey guys, we're going to be playing a Great Lakes Avengers themed game, so we're going to keep it light. I don't plan on delving into too many controversial topics, but if I inadvertently stumble upon something you prefer I don't focus on, just let me know and I'll redirect. It's as simple as that. And players, don't be afraid to bring things up that are genuine concerns. For example, one thing I've brought up proactively in the past is that as a parent, I don't necessarily want to see violence to children be like a fundamental part of any plot. Finally, creating characters. So I think it's an okay option to do this during a session 0 if you've got everyone gathered and you have the time. But in my experience, it can get pretty loud and confusing, and the narrator can get pulled in a lot of different directions if everyone wants to create their character at the same time. So if you've got new players that need help creating their first character, I think a separate session with either you or an experienced player in your group would be best. So there are a few things I think are really important to keep in mind that the book doesn't go over. Let's take them one at a time, and at the end of the video, I will share a Session 0 template that I created that has all of this important stuff baked in. You may have discussed schedule a bit prior to the Session 0, but you really want all of these bullets locked down and agreed to before you start play. Day of the week and start time are typically discussed first, but as a player, if you've got a time you need to stop, either because it's a work night or a school night, or you've got some other commitment, be sure to communicate that end time to the narrator. How often you want to play is crucial. Is it weekly, monthly? Can you even commit to a regular schedule, or will every session have to be scheduled ad hoc? Location isn't just for in-person games. The discussion should also include details necessary for online play. And for me, this is a big one. Expected campaign length is often overlooked, and it's important for so many reasons. 1. A finite commitment is more attractive to first-time players that might not know exactly what they're getting into. A newcomer might commit to playing Enter Hydra for a session or two, but not the entirety of Cataclysm of Kang. 2. Shorter commitments give folks an opportunity to bow out of the campaign gracefully if they're not having fun, and offers a great jumping-on point for new players. And 3, it gives an opportunity for potential new narrators to step up. So you should end up with something like this. The schedule is every other Monday from 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. online using Discord and Roll20 for as long as it takes to finish the Murder World That Time Forgot, approximately 6 to 8 sessions. Players, if you don't have a sense of what the schedule is or how long the game is going to last, please bring it up to the narrator. Chances are other players are thinking the same thing as you. Next, what is the quorum needed for play? This has been a huge one for me personally. Sometimes it feels like every other game there's somebody who can't make it, and hey, I think we all get it, life happens, it comes first, but having a joint understanding of what to do in these situations is so important. For example, if you're running the type of game where everyone has to be there, you should establish an understanding that says if one person has to cancel, the game is automatically canceled, and you don't have to wait for the narrator to announce this to make alternate plans. Alternately, you can have a rule in place that says the game is always still on if one person cancels. In that case, it's helpful to have a joint understanding of what happens in that situation. Do you just kind of hand wave the absence of that character in the game? Does another player or the narrator control that character? If you're using the getting schooled rules on incremental ranking, does that character still get to choose another power, trait, or ability score if the player wasn't there? Can a character controlled by another player die in combat? The reality is that running any game costs money and takes time, but there's no rule that says the narrator gets stuck with all of the cost and effort. Sometimes people aren't comfortable talking about money, especially with a group of friends, but by making this a standard part of your Session Zero agenda, you can eliminate that discomfort. Now, why is this such an important topic to discuss? One, it's just fair. If a narrator is running Cataclysm of Kang for you, they just drop $30, maybe twice over if they got the digital version as well. And this is on top of buying the Core Rulebook and something extra for the VTT. Not to mention the amount of time it takes to read the adventure and plan everything out. While you can't share that preparation load, you can kick in a few bucks or help in other ways, maybe by taking point on scheduling the games. 2, even if you're independently wealthy and don't need the players to kick in money, still giving the option for players to do so can help make the topic feel a little less taboo. Think about it. You may have a potential narrator in your group that could be running games for you, but they're hesitant to bring up their desire to run a game because they feel like they can't afford to. That would be a real shame. 3, sharing the cost makes the game feel less like the narrator's game and more like the group's game. And that sense of shared ownership can help everyone feel equally as invested in it, and that's just going to make for a better game for everyone. And 4, creating this environment where everyone can kick in will encourage people to contribute in other ways. Maybe one of your players is artistically inclined and they would be encouraged to animate a funny scene. Or maybe a player could help with the organization of the game, sending reminders to people the day before the game of the start time. Even if you're the most organized person in the world and don't need the help, delegating and not taking everything on yourself will make the role of narrator feel less intimidating and time-consuming for others. And this will help encourage more and more narrators to get their start. Finally, it is crucial that someone captured what was discussed during the Session Zero and sends out those notes. It does not have to be the narrator. If you're a player and you're a half-decent note-taker, offer to do so before the meeting starts. After the session, you can distribute them to everyone in the group and confirm that nothing was missed. Not only have you assured everyone is on the same page, but you've now got a document that you can send out to potential new players to ensure that they're a great fit for your group. Players, if the notes for the Session Zero haven't been sent out before you sit down for your first game, do not feel bashful about asking for a copy. Having a simple template to work through can really help out here. Here's a sheet that I use that you can download from fuzzyonthedetails.com. I'll put a link in the description. If this format doesn't work for you, create one that does. And if you think a document like this or anything else that we discussed in the video was helpful, I would really appreciate either a like or a comment saying so. All of your support has really helped this channel grow and reach more and more folks out there who are interested in the game. Well, that's all I've got for you today, true believers. Do you have anything you typically discuss in your own Session Zeros that I didn't include today? Or do you have any horror stories about campaigns that blew up because you didn't have a Session Zero in place? Let me know in the comments. I am so grateful for all of the feedback you share with me. Keep it coming. Thank you so much for listening, and have a fantastic day.